Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here. So we got some more news. The Washington Commanders are expected to interview former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman. So we're going to talk about that, and also we have some more Eric Bieniemy news. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. It's free. It takes 1 second. Just click that button, also hit that like button and the notification bell as well. So this was something I was not expecting at all for the Washington Commanders. I thought it was going to be Eric Bieniemy and that was it, but looks like the Washington Commanders are expanding their search a little bit and adding Greg Roman to the list. So very, very interesting for sure. If you guys don't know, Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens for the last few years with Lamar Jackson. Did some great things and did some not so good things as well. Also worked with Alex Smith as well. It did a pretty good job there when Alex Smith was playing at his best at times. So let's also, this is a really good question, saying Roman has been available for weeks. Why wait until now to interview him? That's a very good question. And then John Keim says, initially, not sure he wanted to interview. Sounds like he changed his mind. So that makes a lot of sense because, that's a very good question. Why wait until now? Well, now we know why, because he originally maybe wasn't, looking at Washington as a top spot, but something changed, or maybe he didn't want to be in it. Maybe he wanted to take a year off, but now he doesn't. There's a lot of different factors that could go there, but it looks like he is interested in the job now and will likely interview this week. And Eric Bieniemy, same thing, likely will interview this week, maybe a little bit later, just because of the Super Bowl celebrations. And I'll read this tweet from Mike Garafolo. If it loads, he says, the Commanders are set to interview former Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman this week. As John Keim reported, shout out John Keim, he says they're working on scheduling Eric Bieniemy as well, though the Chiefs Super Bowl celebrations have the date to be determined as of now. So, I don't know, looks like the Commanders' search for an offensive coordinator still might drag on till the end of this week, maybe a little bit longer. Like, we still might not know who the OC is until a week from today, which is annoying, but it is what it is. It gives us a little bit more to talk about when right now we're at the, dead part of the offseason. The Super Bowl just ended, and we're still at least talking about some things. We have OC to talk about, and then soon we'll get, free agency and stuff. But just, yeah, Greg Roman, my thoughts on the Greg Roman situation before we get into Eric Bieniemy. Do I absolutely love Greg Roman? No, not at all. But do I hate him? Not really. I much rather have Eric Bieniemy as our OC than Greg Roman. But there are some positives with Greg Roman. He did a really good job developing Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens offense for the most part was pretty good while he was there. And even this year, before Lamar went down, their efficiency was really good. They were playing solid. And, obviously the last half of the year they did not play well. The cons with him is he runs. And I guess for this team, and Ron, he likes to do that. But, the receivers, RG3 tweeted this out maybe a couple weeks ago when the Ravens and Greg Roman decided to part ways, that, receivers hate playing in this scheme for Greg Roman. And you got Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Jahan Dotson, 3 really good receivers, and they know how good they are. Terry knows how good he is. He's making $20+ million a year. Jahan is a first-round pick. He knows how good he is and how good he can be, and so does Curtis Samuel. They're not going to want to play in a scheme where they're not really getting that many targets, and that's why not many receivers signed with the Ravens in free agency, and they had they were forced to draft some guys. So that's kind of the cons of him. And again, runs the ball a lot, and Ravens fans absolutely hate him. And all I'll say though is that you have to take it a little bit with a grain of salt when these fans are saying they hate a specific coach or player, because sometimes it's just a lot of bias filled there. I've a lot of players that we've signed in the past that fans are like, oh, this guy's terrible. They end up being okay. And last year, a lot of Ravens fans were super happy that Wink Martindale, their defensive coordinator, was fired, or they decided to move on. And he did an amazing job with the New York Giants this year and even got head coaching looks. So just got to take what Ravens fans are saying with a grain of salt. But yeah, he's not my ideal candidate. Yeah, not my ideal candidate at all. Much rather have Eric Bieniemy than him, but I don't absolutely hate it. Like, I'd rather have Greg Roman, probably rather have Greg Roman than Ken Zampese. He's been able to develop running quarterbacks. He's done a good job with them. Lamar, obviously. Alex Smith had his some of the best seasons there. Same thing with Tyrod Taylor. So just something to consider. Yeah, not the best candidate. He has his flaws, but there's no doubt about it. He can scheme up. His run schemes are great, and the Baltimore Ravens have been very successful over the last few years. And do we have Lamar Jackson? No, we have Sam Howell, and he's not going to be running the same as Lamar. But if Greg Roman's offensive coordinator, you better believe he's going to be running a decent amount, like much more than he would be if we hired Ken Zampese or whoever, just a normal guy. Greg Roman is very, very aggressive in terms of his running. And, running quarterbacks have succeeded in the past under Greg Roman. And, receivers, not so happy. Tight ends are good with it. But, you kind of got to weigh your pros and cons. For me, Eric Bieniemy's on the top. After that, I'm not in love with anyone. I like Thomas Brown a little bit. Anthony Lynn would be okay with me. And then Greg Roman's probably a little bit after that in terms of my list. But I know a lot of fans are going to be either I know some fans really, really like Greg Roman and would probably put him right behind Eric Bieniemy on the list. Some people even have him over. And I know some people absolutely hate him, do not want him anywhere near this franchise. I understand both sides, a little bit in the middle right there, like I usually am. And then some other news kind of after the Super Bowl. Of course, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl yesterday. Great game. Happy the Chiefs won. Was rooting big time for the Chiefs. And what does this mean for Eric Bieniemy? Well, of course, this interview might be a little bit delayed now. And then Andy Reid on potential staff changes after the game. He says, listen, Eric Bieniemy has been tremendous for us. I think he has been tremendous for the NFL. I'm hoping he's having an opportunity to go somewhere and do his thing where he can run the show and be Eric Bieniemy. To me, that sounds a lot like a coach that knows and maybe even wants his offensive coordinator to leave. Not saying he wants him to leave because he's doing a bad job, but I think Andy Reid's kind of knows that Eric Bieniemy has to leave if he wants a head coaching job eventually. And the way he's talking seems like he knows Eric Bieniemy is leaving, and that means higher percent chance of us hiring him. I still think Eric Bieniemy is number one on the list, guys. Greg Roman, they're interested, but for me, Eric Bieniemy is number one on the list. My personal list, and I believe it's their list as well. I think Eric Bieniemy is number one. And then Adam Schefter says, and with Washington in the process of setting up an interview with the Chiefs OC Eric Bieniemy, 3 of the 4 coordinators from Super Bowl 57 are expected to be mulling big career decisions. And it might not mean a lot, but him just saying Washington, hey, that's a little bit encouraging for me. Not putting Baltimore in that tweet right there is encouraging to me and leads me to believe that it's probably going to be Eric Bieniemy. I still think it's going to be Eric Bieniemy. If I had to put numbers on it, I would probably say 50% Eric Bieniemy, 50% Eric Bieniemy, 15% Greg Roman. I'll say 20% Greg Roman, 20% Pat Shurmur, and maybe 10% Anthony Lynn. That's kind of how I feel about it. We'll see. I'll be happy. I'll be ecstatic with Eric Bieniemy. Anthony Lynn, okay. Greg Roman, okay. Pat Shurmur, I'm not in love with it. I wouldn't hate it, but it would just be kind of a boring move. But, hey, if it works, it works. So, that is it for today's video. I want to hear what you guys have to say about who you want to be the Commanders' offensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure 90% of the fans want Eric Bieniemy, but I know some people don't. And I'm sure some people love Greg Roman and some people don't. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.